Now, writer's block, Bird. Can I just film a fucking video essay? Bird, stop being retard. Stay. Stay. Do not fight your brother, and do not fly around being a fruitcake. I'm trying to be thought-provoking. Now, I have been tasked with writing a essay, you could say, all about a contemporary work and justifying the fact that it should be considered a classic. Now, I got reasonably far. I justified what a classic was, and I had lovely titles like You Haven't Seen Hamilton? How Hamilton Changed Broadway. And then I got really, really stuck. Now, often when I get stuck in writing, it is because I dislike writing. Well, not that I dislike writing, but writing is very... You think a certain way, right? You end up thinking a certain way. So, I was like, you know what? I'm going to make, not a video essay, a PowerPoint presentation, a discussion on what I've found. And then, in the middle of writing it and creating this little PowerPoint, I have discovered my answer. So, I'd like to thank anyone who watches this, as this helped me complete my essay and hopefully get really, really good marks. Because I'm writing something I'm very passionate about. I ended up learning a lot more than I needed to. Now I have a much greater appreciation for not only Hamilton, but Lin-Manuel Miranda. Now, Hamilton, a modern classic. What is a classic? Now, you don't need to know this person. This is Italo Calvino, who is one of the people you often cite when discussing what a classic is. But, see, I wrote this whole page and a little bit extra, talking about what a classic is, and then what I define as a classic. Now, obviously, in academic terms, I couldn't just say, this is what a classic is, this is what I believe a classic is. So I wrote... So basically, in fancy terms, I discussed what a classic is. But in simple terms, I wrote, it changes the surrounding culture, is regularly discussed in and out of the sphere. So people who don't regularly watch musicals will still discuss Hamilton. And I'll get to this. I wrote made by a prominent author because I was struggling to find a third point to talk about. And then in the middle of making this, I found out what I was going to be discussing. So don't even stress about that part. Now, the title, You Haven't Seen Hamilton? This is from the show, you keep biting me, you loser boy. You Haven't Seen Hamilton. This is from the show The Good Place. And this is essentially a omniscient being talking about what humans regularly talk about, and it is You Haven't Seen Hamilton. So, why discuss Hamilton? Well, now we're going to get into how it became considered the best rap album of 2015, even though it's a Broadway musical. Got third in the Billboard of basically the top 200 songs, became third. Became the most publicly acclaimed musical recording in over 50 years. Basically, it climbed the ranks super duper fast because of how amazing it was. And therefore led to it being discussed in so many different shows. Gilmore Girls, The Good Place, and what else did I write down? Oh, John Mulaney in Netflix, and his Netflix special, even referenced it when discussing Donald Trump. He said, I don't remember that in Hamilton. And my camera just shifted.
What?
Zuzi, shush. Now I'm going to quickly readjust because this is candid. Don't even need to be fancy up in this bitch. Now we're going to discuss how Hamilton changed the surrounding Broadway culture. Now, Lin-Manuel Miranda, when he first started, he actually wanted to be an actor. He wanted to act in musicals in Broadway. But unfortunately, due to him being Hispanic, Puerto Rican, there were actually no roles for him. If you wanted to be the prominent lead in a musical, you had to be a white dude. So, what he did was he became a playwright and wrote his own. Sorry, cockatoos, if you don't know much about them, are attention-seeking douchebags. And he doesn't like that I'm not paying attention to him. So he's having a little temper tantrum. Now, the last line I've written is race reversal. Now, we're going to look at some of the cast from Hamilton and then the actual people they're meant to be playing. So, Lin-Manuel Miranda playing Alexander Hamilton. The Angelica Schuyler versus the real Angelica Schuyler. Leslie Odom Jr. playing Aaron Burr. And then David Diggs playing Thomas Jefferson. You've noticed they are all white people. And all played by non-white people. But why do this? Well, first of all, people of colour obviously deserve to be a part of an art form that they love. Give me 1 second to annoy the bird. Perfect. Now, race reversal is something, or colourblind casting, is essentially where they cast people of colour and they essentially don't acknowledge the fact that the people they're playing aren't actually the race they're meant to be playing. So Lin-Manuel Miranda did that, but he didn't do it just for the sake of colourblind casting. He did it because he believed that in American history specifically, the history of black people specifically, Zazu. Shh! Do you need a peg to play with this? You know what? Keys? You want keys? Here you go, play with keys. Now shush. I've just made more noise. Okay. No, play with the sock. There you go, play with the sock. Go away. Back to what I was discussing. The history of black people is often left out. And then when people of colour did get to play in musicals, they were reduced to stereotypes. Hispanics were reduced to being essays, people who dealt drugs. If you were Spanish, you had a gun. If you were Spanish, you dealt drugs. But now in this, you weren't a stereotype. In his other musical, In the Heights, you just were a person of colour. You weren't reduced to a stereotype. It's a zoo. Do you want to talk to them? You tell them. Hello. You tell them. Hello. Do you want to talk to them? Oh, you want to hold the microphone? Do. Oh. Is it good? You tell them. We good now? Oh, okay. Yeah. Hey. Why are you getting feisty? I'm not playing right now. Hello. Get! Making video essays with birds is hard. There's actually 2 birds in here. But the other one is a very well-behaved young man. And this one is a 5-year-old who needs constant attention. He was brought in because I knew if I had to record this while he was outside, he would hear my voice and he'd become instantly frustrated. You want S? Talk to it. Go on, share your thoughts. Share your wisdom. Yeah. Shh. Now, it wasn't just the reversal of race that led to Hamilton being Hamilton, being the thing that everyone talks about. Now, when you think of musicals, you don't really think hip-hop and rap, right? You think of very highbrow forms of art. You think it's only like things that like rich people can indulge in. Like you don't think Broadway. You think, oh, the theater. Oh, lovely. Dude, what is your problem? Can you just let me talk? You don't need all the attention. Now, Lin-Manuel Miranda, being Puerto Rican and growing up in America, he was exposed to lots of rap. Like, he loved rap. So, when he was writing Hamilton, and he was like, Alexander Hamilton, the actual historical figure, says a lot of words. I'm going to make it a rap, like a lot of it have rap in it, hip hop, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to get all the knowledge I need to get. Shh, look at, you can't see him, but he's upside down on the chair right now. So, he made it. It had rap, hip hop, jazz, even a little bit R&B, and this led to his musical appealing to a more diverse audience. I'd have never watched Hamilton if it didn't have all these different music forms, and therefore became an interesting piece of art because it brought in people from all wide ranges, specifically people who would have considered musicals and theatre to be highbrow, and those people often consider rap to be lowbrow entertainment. But Lin-Manuel Miranda was like, screw that, man, and managed to mix Broadway, rap, musical prose? No, core? Yes, I think it's core. Basically mix all the cool aspects of Broadway and musicals and rap and hip hop and jazz and R&B all together into the beautiful piece we know as Hamilton. Accessibility. I will come back to this. This is the point I realized in a minute. Talk to them. Come here. Good boy. Now, this is the point I realized whilst making this, but I'm going to come back to it at the end because I had a whole interesting thing to talk about. The reason my original point was prominent author was because I was going to talk about how it's not the... Goodness gracious me! Swoosh your face! He's so a turd burger. Now, I was going to discuss how it's not the classic text that makes the author, but it's the author that makes the classic text. And then I was going to talk about the other pieces of work that Lin-Manuel Miranda has made that makes Hamilton a classic text. But then I realized I have to talk about a classic text, not like the author or the classic texts that make it so. But then I realized a classic text should be something that's widely accessible. Hence my new third point, which is accessibility. But I still wanted to talk about all the cultural works that Lin-Manuel's works have served. So, impact of Lin-Manuel Miranda. In the Heights, the musical, 2008. This was the first musical that he wrote, and it started off while he was at university because he wanted something to act in. If you look, there's a lady on his left, and then a dude further. He's the dude that ends up playing George Washington in Hamilton. So, broaden and then allowed for the discussion to be made that people of different colour should be in musicals. And more importantly, allowed for, because there was black people, but they never had specifically like people from Spanish descent that weren't just stereotyped. We've got In the Heights, the film. That dude, he's the dude that plays... Oh, I can't believe I'm forgetting it. Hold on, ready? I'm going to sing a little bit, just to remember. What time is it? Showtime. Like I said, showtime, showtime, yo. I'm John Lawrence in the place to be. A 2 pints of Sam Adams, but I'm working on 3. He plays John Lawrence in Hamilton. And then Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the person who plays Rosa, she also acts in this film. Boom. More of people of Hispanic descent getting opportunities. You're going to get sent away if you do not stop. You schizo. I don't know what's wrong with him. I think he's got birdietism. Now, Tick Tick Boom. The musical Rent, which I'm unfortunately not familiar with, but I know it's very, very popular, was Jonathan Larson's main thing, but he didn't get to see because he had an issue with his heart and died before its premiere. So, This then brought an underrepresented artist back to the limelight in form of Jonathan Larson, and left room for people like Andrew Garfield, who, outside of Spider-Man and The Social Network, I think it's called, I don't really remember him much else, but this, he did beautiful in. And now it means now I know a lot more about Jonathan Larson and Rent and how impactful he was on Broadway. Give me 1 minute, I need to grab the bird. So, what's happening right now is this bird, this bird, is harassing his brother. And, see, ready? I'm going to get the brother. Come here, little man. Look how nice this gentleman is. You haven't hurt him once. He's so well behaved. Causes no problems. Such a nice little fella. Look, if I offer him the microphone, he won't bite it. He's such a nice little man. Whereas the zoo is saying, you want this over and over because he wants to eat his brother. Now I'm going to talk about Encanto. Now, Encanto was very important because it showed diversity on screen, but not in form of actors. Well, it did have diverse voice actors. It showed a lot of the Colombian culture, which is in the form of its music and its big families, and the song Family Magical, I believe, topped the Billboard charts, which and Lin-Manuel Miranda noted it as being his favorite song ever to create, because he had to think of Beauty and the Beast, where the first song is her like illustrating her town. Family Magical had to introduce like 12 family members, I think, which he did expertly. And then we've got Moana, which I'm not going to talk about Moana, but he wrote How Far I'll Go, which I believe did very, very well. Now we're going to talk about accessibility. So, due to the bird that I chose, this one I didn't actually choose, to being a complete and utter butthole, I have now decided near the latter end of the video, and by latter I mean basically the end, to finally put him outside. Because he was pissing me off. Now, Shakespeare vs. Hamilton, the new point that I've decided to discuss, is Shakespeare made his plays very accessible. It was about 1 pence, which at the time could buy you a loaf of bread, a pint, and it was about 250 pence, that equaled $1, which made his plays quite accessible. For 1 pence, you could be on the floor, which is actually closest to the stage. For 3 pence, you could sit in a chair, and for 6 pence, you could sit in a comfy cushion. So, which, funnily enough, now people pay more to be closer to the stage. You actually paid less to be closer to the stage. And his plays seated a lot of people. And he ensured it wasn't like highbrow. So when highbrow essentially means like, oh yes, the theatre. Oh, we only watch movies in different languages that are black and white. That's highbrow. So he played alongside the circus, alongside comedians. He didn't discern his art. It wasn't, you're here to see Shakespeare. It was, you're here to see a bunch of other people. I'm just an act in that. Now, what Lin-Manuel Miranda did was he first allowed the whole soundtrack to be uploaded online, which is not as common, but it's quite normal. But he was like, yep, Hamilton's going online. But the thing he did that really set it aside was he allowed his musical to be filmed for Disney Plus. Now, I'm sure you can imagine, the reason a lot of people don't film their Broadway musicals is because if people see them in film, why would they come to see it? Where when tickets can go from 250 USD to 1,550 at the height of its popularity, or you can get a $15 subscription to Disney Plus for a month, making it quite accessible. Meaning that he didn't go, no, this is my thing. People have to pay to come see it. It was, no, I want more people to see it, so let's film it. Yeah. And then he allowed for it to be seen outside of New York. So outside of Broadway. He let it be performed in England, in Colombia? Wherever Hamilton was originally from. In the Caribbean. He let it be performed in the Caribbean, which is where Hamilton was actually born. I know. Now, to conclude, Hamilton is a beautiful piece of art. While originally I refused to engage in it, I then finally bit the bullet and said, fine, I'll watch Hamilton, but like most people, I was like, oh, musical? Oh, that sounds dumb. But I finally watched it, and then realized how amazing it is and how now I can sing almost the entirety of it. It not only opened my eyes to what musicals can do and how amazing musicals are, but opened my eyes to how impactful music can be as a whole. And is why Hamilton should be considered a classic and not one of where horror films and horror texts aren't considered classics. They're considered classics of horror. Hamilton should just be considered a classic. And I urge you to either watch it on Disney Plus or listen to it on Spotify. Because it will, I'm not going to say change your life, but it will open your eyes. From Hamilton, I've now listened to Beetlejuice, Dear Evan Hansen. That's too many to remember. The Six is really good. Even was noted to be inspired by Hamilton. In the Heights, 21 Jump Street. Basically, a lot of musicals all started from Hamilton. If I didn't like Hamilton, I would have never gone down the musical route. But I can conclude this in just 2 words. To conclude, watch Hamilton. That would have been a lot nicer if my camera didn't mess up, but unfortunately with PowerPoint, if you stop your recording, you can't let the recording flow. You have to record a different thing on each slide, unfortunately. But that's what happens when you have cockatoos. In conclusion, I appreciate whoever's watching this because it helped me get through writer's block. So, thank you very much. I hope you watch this and go on to watch Hamilton. Enjoy.